I'm Brian Hikas, Director of Product Management for Webex CPaaS Solutions. My focus is on our Webex Connect product and our gateways. And I'm joined today by Dave Jennings.
Hey guys, yeah, David Jennings. I head up our global SE team, pre-sales team. Hopefully many of you will have worked with some of our great guys in EMEA, Americas and APJC regions. So yeah, look forward to talking to you today about integrations and how we're working with some of our customers today and kind of what are integrations and the capabilities behind Webex Connect.
Absolutely. And we're gonna get to Dave in just a minute, but I figured before we dive into the details, probably good to set a little context and start at a high level. And so I'm gonna spend just 5 minutes here at the beginning, sort of setting the stage on some of this before we start diving into the integrations capabilities that we have overall. I think, what's the fundamental problem that we see and that we hear from our customers all the time is that, well, we've got lots of journeys where we want to communicate with our customers. And these really come across the breadth of the business and the breadth of the life cycle that we have with our customers. And because of that, there's just so many opportunities. But in order to really succeed on these, it really relies on being able to connect our existing infrastructure and our existing core business systems with all of those channels where our customers reside. And, as a business looks at this, there's just so many opportunities. And, historically, the approach has always been, well, I'm going to build it, a point solution for each of these, right? I think back to the Apple logo, right? There's an app for that, right? And you take two developers and you throw it at it and they solve all the problems once and launch it. And businesses did that. But then they realized the problem of that is, well, if I keep doing that each and every time that there's a new solution I need to do, well, pretty soon I've got this whole range of point applications that I have to maintain, that I have to update, that I have to solve the same problems repeatedly for. Anytime, I've got a change in the API to my CRM, or, I need to implement something about social hours because we realize we're sending messages to people at 2 a.m. and our customers aren't happy with us, right? And people continuously have to solve those same problems over and over again. Or, on the other side, on the channel side, having to reintegrate with a channel as each new channel comes out. Well, we got fraud detection is now on SMS and WhatsApp, but we didn't get reminders for package notifications over to WhatsApp yet. Let's go rebuild that. And so, managing that at scale becomes a real challenge for businesses. And that's where we've really built Webex Connect, is to help solve those challenges and provide the tools that enterprises need for being able to manage this process from end to end. And we've got 6 core elements to the Webex Connect platform that we talk about. The first is the communication channel management, being able to manage the continued growth and changes in all of these channels, right? It's no longer just SMS with 160 characters of text, right? Now you've got WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger and Apple Messages for Business and Google Business Messages and RCS, all of which are adding richer and more compelling capabilities to these conversations. And they're changing rapidly as the feedback is coming, trying to build app-like experiences in the conversational application, in the conversational interface. And so managing the richness and the complexity there without having to re-implement. And so that's one of the 6 pillars. The second, and the one that we're going to go really deeply here on today, is around the integration, setup, and management. We know enterprises have spent a lot on their existing business systems, right? And they're great systems, but they're not necessarily built for conversational interaction. And if you really want to meet that sort of that holy grail of meeting your customer with the right message, with at the right time in the right channel, you need to be able to tie your existing systems and the knowledge and the investment you've made in them into this conversational interaction, so that you can personalize the message, so that you can relate to the user, so that you can tie it back into other parts of your business and make the interaction that the customer is having over the digital channels then feed back into the system. And so the integration, setup, and management, which we'll go deep on today, is that key part. But we know also, between the channels and the integrations with your systems, there's a lot of conversational management that has to happen. And whether that's applying business logic and decisioning based on the data you get out of your systems, or based on what the customer responds with, or doing natural language understanding, no matter how we build the flows, customers always will talk in the way they want. So understanding them and building those capabilities, powering that through the business logic and the NLP capabilities of the Connect platform is how we help you sort of bridge that gap between the customer and your systems. And then we wrap all of that with the enterprise control so that you can have different roles inside the organizations managing and updating flows, from people who are looking at the analytics, from people who are working on the operational tasks, right? Giving that power and that control and the visibility to the people who need it, while keeping others from accidentally doing something because they don't have the rights for it. And of course, we wrap all of that with our service assurance. We run the platform, make a high ability platform out there, so you don't have to worry about scaling up or managing the instance, right? We're in the holiday season for Christmas sales. Black Friday here in the States was a couple of weeks ago, and the volume of traffic across the entire network spiked, as you might expect during that season. Or thinking back a year or two when COVID was first hitting and we had mass programs going out of the UK government wanting to message all of the citizens around steps to take. Not having to worry about how does the platform scale up and handle that. That's automatically provided as part of the Webex Connect platform and as part of the license. And so driving on all of those. Now, we wanted to those are sort of the 6 key pillars. We definitely want to focus a bit more here into integrations. And I touched on this a little bit, but there's a lot of different ways that we can think of integrations into the system, and we'll touch on and go across all of them. I think it's important to note, as I mentioned before, that we're not trying to replace these systems. We know there's a lot of value and a lot of work that's already been put into the systems, and so we've really designed Webex Connect to work well with what you've already got in place and leverage the value and the data that you've already collected through that. Right? There's no need to really rip and replace or re-engineer any existing systems. We've designed Connect to connect to those systems in the way that they enable, and then we've allowed you to extend that to not only you can not only use the out of the box solutions we've got, but we know everybody's implemented slightly differently. And I always laugh at some of the questions we get on, do you have a Salesforce connector? Yes, absolutely. But it seems like every time we end up drilling in with somebody, well, yeah, well, our Salesforce implementation is slightly different than everybody else's. We did these customizations. Can you tweak it to work with it? And the answer is absolutely. We've built the flexibility into the platform to deal with those differences from the norm of the deployment and the customizations that you may have done as part of your business to get these systems to work well for you. And so, as we really look at the integration setup and management, we look at how do we meet you where you are to enable you to power those personalized conversations that you want to have with your customers. I think, Dave, on to the next slide.
Yep.
And Dave, you want us to pick up here, or am I wrapping up on this one? I can't remember which one we said.
No, you can carry on. I'll chip in.
So real quickly, as we think of these integrations, I think about them in sort of 2 different ways, right? And this goes to meeting systems where they are. The first is, well, how real time are they, right? Is it an output that we get from an existing system that's in a batch process, or is it something that's a real time sort of API call on demand as events are happening? And then, and the second way of integrations is, is this an inbound interaction, where we've got triggers coming into Connect and you're looking to trigger interaction with customers, or is it an outbound connection where, hey, we've got data back on this interaction with the consumer and we're wanting to push it back in to our existing systems or to one of our third-party partners who's interested in this interaction as well. And what we found over time is that working with enterprises, you need all of the above, right? And it really depends on the existing systems you're working with. I'll start with the lowest common denominator, right? I can't trigger real-time events, but I can get a CSV file or a text file out of my system. Can you help me manage that and do something based on that so I can talk to my customers? Really used in bulk notification systems as an example, right? Hey, your bank balance this morning is the following. Those types of interactions are available. And so we have our event scheduler, which takes those on a on a predetermined basis, or when the files show up, ingests them in and triggers workflows and the interactions with customers. On the same point, there's a lot of systems out there that can't take real-time data back into them, but hey, they've got an ingestion engine. So if you can just get me a CSV file of all the interactions my customers have had with Connect, well, I can ingest that back into my CRM, or I can use that to feed point of sale or one of my other systems. And so, from Connect, we have our log scheduler and custom logbooks, so you can log just the information you need, and then make that available via FTP over to the existing system, so they can ingest that as part of a batch process.
If I might add to it, Brian, I think one thing I was going to say, kind of moving kind of left, event scheduler. So one of the examples I think I can give as well is major banks uploading lists of customers to be notified about fixed debit schedules. So something that doesn't need to be done in real time, that's just kind of loaded overnight and sent out the next day. You mentioned the inbound webhooks, the inbound and the real time. I think an example for me of that, and we'll walk through a few more examples, would be logistics or parcel delivery or retail companies sending out real-time order status updates and things like that. Every different step of the delivery chain, which has to be real-time, as opposed to something that can be uploaded overnight, like maybe just, hey, you've got some payment reminders, some debit schedules that you need to adhere to. And then you mentioned kind of the log scheduler logbook in the bottom left, and the outbound and batch as it's depicted here. One of the good examples we saw there as well was utilities companies taking meter readings. And so they're taking meter readings, and then they were submitting them via SMS to customers, and then they were periodically sent via SFTP, because again, it didn't need to be real time. They just needed to capture them and then act on it. And the back-end systems and these legacy utilities companies couldn't accept real-time API calls. However, when we're working with some of the leading telcos, they would be on that right-hand side, the real-time outbound would be things like order fulfillments or subscriber info or billing kind of SOAP APIs, where even they'd be able to do auto top-up requests in real time, where you do need to take that customer response and then fulfill it against an outbound webhook to another system. So then you are provisioning that top-up in real time. So again, just maybe some customer examples around those 4 stages that you're talking to.
Yeah, I think you expressed it well there, Dave. I mean, as you go to the right-hand side in the real-time integrations, especially the multi-step ones, you really start getting to the more interesting and innovative use cases that expose the richness and the complexity that you can achieve using an interactive system like Connect. And I think parcel delivery is one of my favorites, right? Oh, it's on its way. Are you home? We need a signature for this. Being able to have that bi-directional communication that then alters what you do as a business in terms of, okay, does that parcel actually get delivered? Does it get rescheduled? Okay, you weren't there, but we left it, and here's the picture of it on your porch, so that what was there. And the interactivity that the real-time interactions enable across not only communications but back into the rest of the business is where the real, some of the really, really powerful cases come from as we see moving forward. So really excited by how we've seen people use this to change how they operate on an ongoing basis.
And I think this refers back to what you kind of opened with around why we have these flexible integration options. And it's because of those existing systems that were designed on your back end for specific purposes, right? Like it's going to process payments. It's not designed for customer experience. They're not all designed for the kind of right-hand side, real-time utopian API economy, which we'd all love them to be. So being able to integrate in different ways and being able to integrate with different systems based on the dependencies that they have, I think is, I guess, why we are talking about these, many different options here.
Exactly.
Cool. So Brian, I'm going to move through and talk through a couple of examples now. Obviously, we gave some high-level examples of what these 4 buckets kind of represent for a couple of our customers, but I'm going to walk through a couple of real examples that I guess for you guys as customers will be very familiar with. I think one of the things always strikes me about these examples is the customer experience is really, really simple. And as a customer, we just expect these things to work. Whereas actually behind the scenes, when Brian mentions those 4 buckets, in that middle, the integrations, the business logic, the conversational AI, and the rich communication channel management piece, there is a lot going on. And so I'll start off with quite a basic journey here, fraud prevention, showing the happy path. What you'll see on the left-hand side from that fraud detection system is, I guess, an inbound integration. So real-time integration via API, a webhook to kick off a flow within Connect, those of you that are familiar with the platform. We'd receive potentially a payload with parameters that we pass through and validate against and encrypt. We could even just receive the initial notification with the mobile number and then dip into a CRM or something to pull through more personalized parameters if we needed to. In this case, we're receiving the entire payload. We then do some error handling. So we send out the message, the SMS first, as you see. Hello, Alex, did you make a payment? So you can see the personalized parameters being pulled through from that initial inbound webhook, that initial inbound payload. As I said, we can error handle. We could send them another message on the same or a different channel. We can also integrate back into the bank's system at this point if we needed to notify them that the customer has not responded. So that could be that outbound logbook or outbound webhook, and say, hey, you need to load this into a CRM or a dialer, or put this in an agent queue to manually call this person because we couldn't resolve their fraud query. In this case, though, the customer does respond. Most of you know, most fraud queries are they're not actual fraud. 99% of them, I think, are not actual fraud. So most customers will respond yes. But why this is important is imperative that we can handle this very, very quickly, and we can integrate immediately within milliseconds into the bank's back-end fraud system to tell it the customer has responded, why. Therefore, release their card, let them make that payment. You know, when they're sat on queues to buy tickets or queues to buy things at Christmas, or they're trying to desperately make purchases on websites, you don't want a 20-minute, even a 3-minute, 5-minute delay. You'll notice that you'll probably expire in your shopping basket or whatever as a result anyway. So these real-time API webhook integrations to fulfill that release my card is incredibly important. I think what on the unhappy path side as well, of course, if the customer were to reply no, a very similar process would take place, and the immediate escalation potentially into an agent to pick up a call directly to that customer and handle their fraud with a human being, or even give a set of options for the customer to resolve it themselves if they're not able to speak to an agent right then. That's why I think the real-time integration capabilities are so important. And essentially, to bring it back to the original slides that Brian was showing, we're communicating here between the customer and the back-end business systems. We're the middleware, we're bridging the gap, and essentially we're maintaining all of this within a session or a state where we're retaining all of that context as part of this, I guess, simple for a customer perspective, but behind the scenes quite complex customer journey.
And Dave, I think, you know, the point there, just to tie it back, right? You know, that existing fraud system at the bank was already there. You know, the nice piece is that, you know, as you're saying, we're in the middle. They didn't have to teach the fraud system how to talk SMS or WhatsApp to and deal with the complexity of it, or how to deal with, you know, do I send this at 3 a.m. or not, or any of those, right? It's all solved outside of that. So when, you know, they've got it for fraud right now, but when it also comes up on the next time for, hey, we see your ATM card is being used, please validate it's you, right? And you know, other related cases, well, this entire flow is reusable, and they can trigger in with related items that follows the same pattern, you know, making the reuse potential here another one of the benefits from the platform as we go forward.
Yeah, 100%. And we're going to show you actually a little bit about how we configure a kind of a custom node that can be reused and dragged onto the canvas in a couple of slides, a couple of demos time. What I'd love to do as well now is bring it to life a little bit more. I think we've talked about on the previous slide the art of the possible, maybe an experience many people are familiar with. This will be, I guess, the visual flow representation of the actual canvas within our platform, taking it a step further, showing that Connect flow. We're going to show the customer handset along the right-hand side, which is going to play out with the customer experience. So you can follow the customer experience, but you're going to see the flow in action here on the left. And I'm going to try and talk through it as it moves quite quickly. So inbound customer journey. This is Apple Messages for Business, booking a service appointment. We're going to move through a series of number validation steps to capture customer details to identify them. In the context of this flow, why that's really important is once we have this identifier, once we know who this customer is by finding out what their SMS number is, their mobile number, we know that identifier exists in the CRM. So then we can integrate to fetch customer data from the CRM, from Salesforce in this instance. That allows us to, I guess, personalize by using that get method to fetch the details, personalize the context of the experience, the next best actions for that customer, and present all those options that we're integrating into the backend system for in a really nice, easy to use manner, tap not text that Apple Messages for Business allows. We can do simple things like NLP detection. In this case, we could be integrating into a dialogue flow. Again, calling dialogue flow and asking for a response to say, what should we do with this date time that we didn't understand day after tomorrow? This allows us to then present that into a structured format that the customer and the back-end system in the Salesforce appointment scheduling system understands. So once the customer chooses their appointment date, we can do a further integration, potentially a get or post method to find available time slots, schedule the appointment with the specified source, in this case, the booking system. And all the while, as you see from a customer experience perspective, the journey looks pretty simple. It's happening in seconds. And the customer's just tapping a list of options when prompted and confirming actions via the messaging channel that we've propagated in this instance. As Brian said before, when we talk about reusability, you could be reusing all of these Salesforce integration points across many journeys. You could be swapping out the channel here using any other channel without reinventing all of the logic that you see here as well. So whilst we're showing you the art of the possible on Apple Messages for Business, this could be replicated across any other channel with very little additional development effort. So yeah, a very easy CX powered by an extremely powerful set of integration capabilities with different integration tasks and methods performed throughout the journey. And as I said, I'll go into a bit more detail on what the integration node looks like on the next slide.
I think one thing Dave mentioned here, and it's just worth repeating, right? Often when we're doing demos, it's slideware. What you actually see there down the left-hand side, next to the phone, was actually taken from inside the product. That's the canvas. Those are the nodes you would drag onto the flow to actually create the experience. Well, we've isolated it to make it look a little better on the slide. That's actually what this flow looks like inside the tool, and you just end up double clicking on each of those nodes to configure it or to do the task you're looking for. So commonly get a question of, okay, what does this actually look like when you're trying to do it? Well, we're showing you here on the left-hand side. That's what building that customer journey actually entails there. So I just wanted to highlight that since it's a common question.
Yeah, and whilst this has had some nice marketing work around it to make it look cleaner, to maybe re-emphasize Brian's point, this had no marketing effort around it. This is the true live video of one of our developers, one of our sales engineers, navigating the platform and showing our custom node builder. So this is how we create custom integrations. We mentioned up front, so we can integrate with proprietary or third-party systems. We're going to show you how we make them available as reusable integrations. That's really, really important point that we want to keep hammering home. We can set them up by REST or SOAP API, and the point here is no additional code for field validations and response data processing as well. So once you've built it, it is very, very easy to configure as part of that flow for a less technical user. I want to hammer that point home as well. So what you're going to see here is maybe some slightly more technical dive into how to create the custom integrations, which your developers would do, or we can help you do. But actually, once it comes to using them, it's very, very easy. So we're going to navigate through to our integrations and custom node area here. I'm just going to kick this demo off. You're going to see us move to, hopefully it starts playing, yeah. We're going to move into the assets, through to our integrations. So this will be where all your own integrations live and are managed. We're going to look at creating a new custom node. There you go, you can create a new custom node, build one from scratch very simply by adding one. For the purpose of this, we're just going to dive into one we built earlier, dialogue flow one, and just show you some of the capabilities within there. You're going to see we built a simple post method custom node for intent detection. You can see all the other method types there. We can configure the level of authorization. We can pass parameters through in dynamic or static fashion. Post in some sample response code, which we would just get from the Dialogflow API docs very simply. Just go on their website, pull through the API docs. I think, yeah, you're going to see here some of the response body and the session IDs and things like that we're going to decide to pass through as part of this node. What you then see, which is great, is it now appears within a flow. So you go into one of your flows, you find it on the left-hand side under your integrations, you drag it on in a matter of seconds, you double click, you open it, you click the method that you've described, which is detect intent, and I'll explain what we mean by that in a second. And we're passing through variables from the existing flow, which is the message body, receive message. And so what that is now going to enable you to do is do intent detection on the message type that comes through to determine whether it is a positive or negative sentiment from integrating with dialogue flow. So we talk about NLP and AI, just a really, really simple way of building that. It moved through quite quickly, but we're able to map some of the responses within there, the node edges or outcomes, whether this is successful, it has an error, it times out, and then what to do with that request as well. So that's all being configured behind the scenes. As I said, we're quickly configuring some basic details to add the intent detection to the flow. And just like that, you've seen, I guess, how easy it is to configure and then easily use a flow within a single tenant. Yeah. Simple custom integrations. We consider showing you how we can build one from scratch. That video was 3 minutes. So again, not too much effort to build it from scratch either. And that would have shown us going through the developer API docs and copying and pasting information in and going a little bit more technical. But if prompting or preempting, I should say, the question of kind of how long does it take to actually build this that we just shown you, we're talking minutes, minutes and less than hours to actually go from creating that node to implementing it in flows. And that's one of the key benefits of this integration. It's not just the reusability, it's the amount of time and effort it's going to save developers from building across multiple flows and iterating and reusing. And it comes down to that, the siloed applications slide that we basically led off with in this presentation. One of the key ways we remove the siloed applications from the back end is by building a single integration into them and then putting it down this left-hand side so you can reuse it. A final point for me, I think, on the reason why custom integration is so important. I think one of the most common questions we get asked, or I get asked, my team gets asked, is, can you integrate with X? We're always asked, can you integrate with X? And by having this custom integration, the answer is always essentially yes. If you can expose us with REST or SOAP API, we can build a custom integration, and via the methods that you saw in there. My question back is, to do what, right? So you can integrate in a number of ways with us, and the answer is almost always yes. And the reason we built the custom integration is because there are so many, even of the out-of-the-box marketplace type of integrations like your Salesforce CRM or your Zendesk or your contact center. There are so many versions, there are so many different models that you essentially need to custom integrate into them anyway, right? So for us, we find it really powerful to be able to create your own set of custom integrations that live in this palette on the left-hand side, and it's your business systems that have been configured once to be reused across all of your entire customer journeys.
And Dave, just to extend on that, right? I think it also ties to your users of the system. I talked at the beginning, having different roles for different users on the system. Yep. We know building integrations and testing them and configuring them against your particular setup is more of an advanced function, right? That's something where you have an advanced business analyst or possibly a developer working on that to test and debug. The nice thing is with custom integrations, once you build that, and you have that persona build it, you have other people who are, potentially less senior, who can then take that integration node, drag it into Flow, and in the low-code Flow Builder can use that integration repeatedly. You saw the difference when Dave was showing the demo here of when he opened up the dialog flow node. All he had to do was select the intent, or select the method that he wanted, right? The get, I think it was get intent. And it was very simplistic. It was, okay, configure 2 boxes, as opposed to setting up that entire parsing of all of the back and forth with dialog flow that the original developer who set up the custom node was going to have to do. And so it simplifies that so that you can have, a less senior or less tenured person be able to build out these flows using the low code tools without having to worry about the complexity behind the integrations. And then you can reuse that, and that's a rinse and repeat over and over for the different people publishing the tools. That's really keeps your let your senior people focus on the hard tasks, and your other folks work on the easier tasks in a reusable fashion as they move forward.
Yeah, 100%. I think even for those users that aren't even going to be building this out, if you think about your typical whiteboarding session and you want to see that whiteboarding session of a customer journey mapped onto a canvas, it's much easier for your line of business to understand what you've built by showing them, oh, that's the dialogue. That's where we call the AI. They don't need to know what it does or how it does it, but if they can visualize it on this canvas and understand what you've built, it's a much better way to democratize the whole process of IT and whoever the line of business is working together across these complex customer journeys. Brian, over to you for some key takeaways, and that's us,
Yep.
I think.
And hopefully that I think we've hit on most of these as we've gone through, but just to really wrap it up, right? The purpose of using a system like Connect to bring your existing systems and into an integration with your customers is really to power that personalized interaction, right? We hear customer experience is so key for brands. Consumers are as willing to switch, service providers for them based on customer experience as they are on price. Is the feedback that we're getting, and integrations are the key for being able to tie the knowledge that you've got and the personalization and the capabilities that you already know of to these conversations with customers on digital channels and power that. And bidirectional integration is really a key for the advanced types of interactions you want to do. Whether it's the fraud alert, as Dave was showing, package delivery, as we talked about at the beginning, right? Being able to bring data into the message that goes to the customer, and then bring those customers' responses back in and feed them back into your systems so that you can use them in other formats, right? Oh, look, this person was browsing, and they keep, in a rich carousel, they keep, selecting the red items. Well, we probably ought to, let the CRM know that so that we can, personalize mailings to them in the future. So these bidirectional integrations really are key for building out the really interesting experiences that we all want to have for our brands. And then, of course, reusability is key for being able to accelerate how we bring this to market, how we deliver against this on an ongoing basis. There's not enough time to re-implement every time that we go on. None of us have extra budgets sitting around saying that I wish I had something more for these people to do. We all have backlogs that are way too large, and we need velocity to be able to deliver. And so the reusable components of the integrations in Connect are designed to help you leverage that, making you and your teams more efficient in delivering the experiences for your customers. And I think I'll leave it at that. Haven't seen any questions or comments come in chat as we've been going through. I'll pause here for just a second and see if anybody has anything they want to have us go back over, double down on, expand on, or if it's something sort of tangential to what we've talked about. If you'd like to take it in a different direction, we've got a bit of time here. Would be happy to address any of that. Give people just a little longer in case somebody's typing. I don't have a typing indicator here, so. Well, not seeing anything. If anything comes in after we wrap up, we'll be sure to circle back with you. But do want to say thank you for your time today. Thank you for the attention. And as always, if there are follow-up questions, send them to us, and we will absolutely get back to you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Cheers, all.